So 1 week ago today, 77 years back, Singapore fell to the Japanese, and with it began one of the darkest chapters in the history of modern Singapore. The local population suffered during the 3.5 years of Japanese occupation, living in fear, hunger, and in poor conditions. During this period, hundreds of women in Singapore, mainly Korean, but also Chinese, Indonesian, and Malay, were forced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military. These women, together with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of other women, became known as comfort women, and they served in comfort stations in the territories occupied by the Imperial Japanese Army in Asia during World War II. In Singapore, comfort stations were found across the island, including buildings still standing in Kean Hill Road, Jalan Jurong Kechil, Tanjung Katong Road, and Teo Hong Road in Chinatown. So without further ado, Prof. Blackburn, please. Let's welcome him.
Okay, thank you very much, Priscilla. Thank you for coming. This is the classic kind of illustration of what a comfort house was like. So a classic determinant of what a comfort house is, usually you have the presence of Korean women, usually you have the presence of women dressed in white, and usually you have a long line of Japanese privates and NCOs, not so many officers actually, waiting. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of mechanized sexual enslavement actually. So how did they adapt it to the buildings of Singapore and the sites? So this is in Cairn Hill, the most well-known one actually. You can see that these are the shop houses in purple. They're preserved by the URA. The description of the shop houses turned into comfort stations is quite interesting too. You had these long corridors, okay, that led to these cubicles where the women were. So the Japanese would sit very quietly, and Robert Chong says, just like waiting to see the doctor actually, very disciplined, very self-patient, very patient. Okay. So the corridor, the crucial feature, of this long line is the corridor actually. The shop houses had to be adapted to this purpose. So usually, when the owners of the buildings came back, usually they'd find these, holes in their buildings where the Japanese had built these long corridors so the men could line up and queue orderly. Okay. The idea was to bring, as I said, it's kind of like a mechanized or orderly system according to the people who designed it. Of course, it's, sexual enslavement. There's no doubt about that. So what he gets also from Professor Hayashi is this document. This document has a map on it that basically defines where the comfort house is actually. So it also has an operation manual for the comfort house actually. You'll see that the hours are there and which butai or military unit gets to use it on which day. The price, the Japanese soldiers, mainly privates and NCOs in this case, had to get a ticket, and they couldn't get in for their 30 minutes with the comfort woman without that ticket. Obviously very mechanized, very organized.